never been brought. It's a case that should be dismissed immediately. The fraud was on behalf of the court. The court was the fraudster in this case.
A defiant Donald Trump moments after taking the witness stand in New York City today, defending himself in a high-stakes civil fraud trial. Good evening. I'm Valerie Castro in for Gadi Schwartz. The former president testified for roughly 5 hours. He clashed often with the judge who will be deciding the case. At one point, Trump's lawyers were told to, quote, control their client, while the judge had to remind Trump that this is, quote, not a political rally. Still, Trump's campaign trail energy was at times front and center.
Everything we did was absolutely right. To think that we're being sued and spending all this time and money, and yet people being killed all over the world, that this country could stop. With inflation and all of the other problems that this country has, I think it's a disgrace.
New York Attorney General Letitia James, who is suing Trump and his adult sons, also spoke to reporters after the testimony.
He rambled, he hurled insults, but we expected that. At the end of the day, the documentary evidence demonstrated that, in fact, he falsely inflated his assets to basically enrich himself and his family. He continued to persistently engage in fraud. The numbers don't lie, and Mr. Trump obviously can engage in all of these distractions, and that exactly what he did, what he committed on the stand today, engaging in distractions and engaging in name-calling.
Trump's family is on trial for allegedly overvaluing their assets to get better deals from banks and insurance companies. Before the trial even started, the judge ruled that Trump's financial statements were littered with fraud. Now the question becomes, what will be his punishment? NBC News legal analyst Lisa Rubin is here. Lisa, thanks for being with us tonight. How would you describe the atmosphere inside the courtroom today?
Tense, Valerie. I would describe it as tense. And that's because the courtroom today was sort of where the two Donald Trumps rather converged. You know, there's a Donald Trump that we all know from Truth Social, and then there's the Donald Trump that we have seen in the courtroom or we have seen in the Oval Office, at the Rose Garden podium. And even though that Donald Trump is still more voluble than others to have held the office, that's a more constrained and controlled Trump. Today, those two people were in the courtroom together and sort of intermingling during his testimony in a way that could be jarring and occasionally also a little bit scary, to be totally honest, because it's behavior that people like me, I'm a recovering litigator, don't see frequently in court, if ever. It is rare to see a witness, let alone a defendant, attack the judge, attack a prosecutor, attack the process the way that Donald Trump did in court today in New York.
Trump's attorney addressed the interactions with the judge with NBC's Von Hilliard earlier outside of the court. Let's take a listen.
Are you concerned by the judge's statement that President Trump's longer answers, that he draws negative inferences from those longer answers?
So let's be clear about why the judge said that. The judge doesn't like when President Trump explains what actually happened because it's not good for his narrative. So right now we're sitting here doing a whole dance, and the only thing they want are facts that are bad for Trump. That's why he's silencing him. That's why he's telling him short answers. And that's why he's clearly enraged. His face is red. He came in hot, and he doesn't know how to handle him.
All right, we got her take there. Lisa, what moments stood out to you between Trump and the judge?
There are a lot of moments between Trump and the judge that stood out to me. But honestly, Valerie, I think what stood out to me most is that the judge really tried to keep his cool because he understood that if he lost it, that would lead to a moment that would be bigger than anything that otherwise happened in the courtroom. He really reserved his ire and his frustration for the attorneys, from whom I think he expects greater degrees of respect and deference to a judge than he came in expecting from Donald Trump. As for Alina Habba's accusation that the judge was trying to control Trump's narrative, you know, I experienced something a little bit to the contrary. The Attorney General's lawyer, Kevin Wallace, asked Trump a series of questions that really should have been answered yes or no and were designed to elicit short answers. They certainly had an opportunity to cross-examine their client, and they can call him in their case in chief, and they will. They were frustrated that both the judge and Wallace took objection to Trump's soliloquies and digressions about subjects that didn't have anything to do with the questions at hand, including long digressions about his overall net worth or the things he even tried to do as president, such as his occupation with China and Russia.
All right, Lisa Rubin, we thank you. NBC News Now legal analyst Angela Cinnadella joins me now. So, Angela, what were your takeaways? There was this updated gag order, the general mood between Trump and the judge. What did you make of all of it?
I would say it's not just tension. I would say it's chaos. I mean, look what he said on the stand today. He called the judge a disgrace. He also went so far as to say it's the attorney general who is the fraud, not me. I mean, these are fighting words here. So I think Trump just escalated as we expected he would.
So in the past, we've seen Trump invoke the Fifth Amendment. In a deposition in August of 2022, he took the Fifth more than 440 times in that case. Why are we not seeing him do that this time around?
So this is interesting. In a criminal case, if you invoke the Fifth Amendment, that cannot be used against you. But in a civil case, it can absolutely be used against you. Now, that when he used all those times, and he said it 440 times, that was different because that was just a probe. There was no actual lawsuit that was filed at that point. But now on the stand, if he says, I take the Fifth, I'm not going to reply to this question, the judge can use it against him.
So something else that we've seen come up a lot in this case is Trump's Seven Springs property. That's a large estate in Westchester County, north of New York City. He testified that he thought the valuation of that estate was, quote, too high. What do you make of that strategy?
So I think defendants often are advised that when they are on the stand, to enhance their credibility, you can't just deny everything. To some degree, you have to give an inch. You have to admit some things so you don't appear to be just incredible overall. But I think the strategy would have worked a lot better prior to what happened last time he was on the stand, when his credibility was already shot with the judge. So, yeah, I think that we'll see what happens.
Definitely. And speaking of what we'll see what happens, Ivanka is supposed to take the stand on Wednesday, then the defense. What are you looking ahead to?
Well, I'm looking at the defense, and I'm going to say that I think the banks possibly could be what Trump could stand on. Because if we look at the valuations that were brought, we have to understand that banks have to approve these appraisals, and banks have a fiduciary duty to their customers, to their shareholders, to make sure that everything that is presented on these documents is accurate. So to the extent that Trump can say that these banks have approved and agreed to everything he said, I think that is really his only shot at this point.
All right, we'll have to see how this wraps up later in the week. Angela Cinnadella, thank you for your time. Israel Defense Forces say they have now isolated Gaza City and have split Gaza in two, a move Israel says would make it harder for Hamas to control the area. According to the Israeli military, there's now North Gaza, where Israel is pursuing their ground operations because they claim it's the center for Hamas's military operations, and South Gaza, where Palestinians are being told to flee despite Israeli airstrikes continuing to pound the area. Gaza's health officials now say the number of people killed in Gaza is over 10,000, including more than 4,000 children. Today and over the weekend, airstrikes once again fell on the city of Han Yunis, which is in southern Gaza, hitting a refugee camp, destroying buildings, and burying people under the rubble. Gaza's health ministry says that more than half of its 35 hospitals are out of service at this point. A triage doctor at the country's largest hospital says they are facing catastrophe.
We are out of control. Everything is lost. Medical supplies, fuel. We have been told by the administration that today the generator will stop totally. That means all the cases in the ICU, as you heard, on the ventilation and the mechanical ventilation, they will lose their lives.
The United Nations and other organizations and countries have pushed Israel for a ceasefire or humanitarian pause to help civilians in Gaza. But so far, Israeli officials have resisted those calls. NBC's Hala Garani joins us now from Tel Aviv. So, Hala, what does it mean now that Israel has effectively split Gaza into two?
Well, it means that it is establishing a ring around Gaza City, that it is establishing an area in North Gaza from the border with Israel to the sea in order to prevent supply lines and supply routes for Hamas militants. And also it is surrounding Gaza City, which is the stronghold of the Hamas militant group. And you mentioned there the death toll associated with this campaign that is now several weeks since October 7th. 8th, I should say, when the bombardment started. Over 10,000 people, according to the Palestinian-controlled the Hamas-controlled, I should say, health ministry. And Gaza City is surrounded, making it militarily easy for the Israeli Defense Forces to operate without having on either flank attacks from Hamas militants unless they use the tunnels. And that is one of their big objectives, of course, and that is to find the tunnels, to destroy them, to collapse them. But this is a huge task, of course, because the tunnel network is hundreds of miles, according to some estimates, across Gaza, which is a densely populated area. And targeting those tunnels, of course, each time comes with it the risk and the reality of killing many civilians in the process, Valerie.
As you said, Gaza City is now effectively surrounded. Are Gazans or pro-Palestinian supporters worried that they'll never see that land again? I mean, who is in control of that area right now?
Well, that's a good question. Who's in control? Hamas is the fighting force. A lot of it is happening underground. The UN agencies say they are unable to distribute the food that they need to distribute and the medical supplies because they've run out of fuel. Hospitals are on the verge of collapse. The biggest hospital in Gaza City is shutting down operating rooms because they just don't have enough power to use to fuel to power generators in order to use the entirety of the hospitals. Who's in charge administratively? It would seem no one at this point. And of course, the concern is that if you leave your home, and this is something historically that Palestinians will say again and again when you ask them, will you be allowed back, especially since there is concern among some Palestinian politicians. I spoke with a very prominent veteran Palestinian Authority politician, Mustafa Barghouti, about 10 days ago. He's concerned that the Israelis will establish some sort of buffer zone in the north, and that buffer zone will become a de facto annexed area into Israel. And will Palestinians who live there ever be able to return, Valerie?
You mentioned the death toll. We know it'll likely continue to rise. We're up to 4,000 children included. We keep hearing about efforts for a humanitarian pause. Is that just another name for a ceasefire? And is something like that even likely to happen?
Not if you ask Benjamin Netanyahu. He was interviewed on an American network where he essentially floated the idea of a humanitarian pause, an hour here, an hour there, but not a ceasefire. A ceasefire, of course, as a term implies some sort of agreement and deal between two parties. That's something that Benjamin Netanyahu has rejected. It's something that the Americans and their allies have said is not on the cards. The idea of a humanitarian pause, though, is for the first time you're hearing a softening of the discourse coming from Benjamin Netanyahu, perhaps because of pressure coming from President Biden. Interestingly, and our viewers may be aware, there was a Jordanian airlift of humanitarian supplies that took place in the last 24 hours. Now, that had to have been done with coordination from Israeli authorities. So, in other words, there seems to be the beginning, the opening, the crack of a door for the notion of a humanitarian pause, even if it's just a few hours, to get some supplies in, some wounded and injured out, and some dual nationals and foreign nationals as well out through the Rafah border into Egypt. So there seems to be some softening of the rhetoric there coming from the Israeli Prime Minister, even though he continues to reject quite firmly the idea of a ceasefire, Valerie.
Halagarani, we appreciate your reporting. Thank you so much. Since Thursday, there have been at least 10 attacks on American-affiliated bases in the Middle East. Most of those have been in the last 36 hours. The U.S. military believes the groups behind the attacks have ties to Iran. Meanwhile, tensions are rising on the Israel-Lebanon border. The back-and-forth barrage of missiles killed one in Israel and at least 3 children in Lebanon yesterday. One Hezbollah lawmaker says Israel will, quote, pay the price in response to the civilian deaths. NBC's Matt Bradley has more.
Tonight, with tensions at the Israel-Lebanon border reaching fresh highs, Hezbollah's second-in-command, Naim Qassem, in an American TV exclusive, providing a rare glimpse into the militant group's strategy.
So, right now, Hezbollah is simply trying to distract the Israelis from their military action in Gaza? That's your main goal?
Of course, Hezbollah participates for the sake of lowering the pressure on Gaza and for the sake of preventing Israel from achieving its objectives. In addition, as a clear message that if you expanded, there will be serious consequences. These messages have been delivered and are still being delivered.
But distracting Israel is far from Hezbollah's only goal. The group's leader, Hassan Nasrallah, vowing to kill one Israeli civilian for every Lebanese civilian casualty. A threat taking on new urgency after an Israeli airstrike killed a woman and 3 children in Lebanon on Sunday, according to state media. Israel says Hezbollah has already fired 30 rocket strikes in retaliation.
Are you going to expand your attacks? Are you going to deliberately target Israeli civilians?
We normally don't discuss our operational activities and how we will behave. What we will do, you will see in the press, God willing.
But Hassan Nasrallah did discuss his plans. Hassan Nasrallah did say 1 Lebanese civilian for 1 Israeli civilian. That sounds like a plan. That sounds like a plan to kill Israeli civilians.
You can start counting and you will see whether or not our calculations are correct or not.
Israel says it's now leading what it calls a global battle against Iranian-backed groups, including Hamas and Hezbollah.
What we see is a broader battle between civilization and barbarism. The barbarism is led by an axis of terror.
But what Netanyahu calls the axis of terror, Iran and its allies in the region call an axis of resistance. And lately, the axis of resistance has been more active than ever, striking American military and Israeli targets across the Middle East.
Can you tell the other members of the axis of resistance to stop harassing the Israelis and the Americans?
It's a question directed at America and Israel. It's upon them to stop the aggression so that things do not expand. And if they do, only God knows how much it might expand.
You saw Naim Qassem's reaction to my question about deliberately targeting civilians, that eye for an eye mentality. And when you combine that with Hezbollah's stated commitment to escalating their attacks against the Israelis if Israel escalates their attacks against the Gaza Strip, which, by the way, they're almost certain to do. They've said they're going to do that. Well, then you've got the recipe for what looks like it could be an expanding region-wide war.
All right. Our thanks to Matt Bradley for that report. Don't go anywhere. We're just getting started. We're following some big elections happening across the country tomorrow. Shaquille Brewster joins us from the campaign trail in a moment with the races you need to watch. Plus, a jury just decided the fate of 2 Colorado police officers accused of killing Elijah McClain. Those details are ahead. And later this hour, move over ChatGPT. Elon Musk just entered the chat, and he says his new bot is here to answer the spicy questions. That's all just ahead, so stay tuned. Welcome back. Here are some of the other headlines we're watching tonight. Aurora police officer Nathan Woodyard was just found not guilty in the 2019 killing of Elijah McClain. Woodyard was the first officer to confront McClain while he was walking home. Another officer was acquitted of manslaughter, while a third was convicted of criminally negligent homicide. This morning, an August trial date was set for the 4 Memphis police officers charged in the fatal beating of Tyree Nichols. A 5th officer charged in the case, Desmond Mills Jr., pleaded guilty last week to federal charges. The 4 other officers face multiple charges, including second-degree murder. Tyson Foods is recalling nearly 30,000 pounds of dino-shaped chicken nuggets after consumers said they found metal pieces in them. The USDA is urging people with nuggets in their freezer to throw them out. President Biden stopped by his home state of Delaware today to award more than $16 billion for passenger rail projects in the Northeast. The money will fund 25 projects between Boston and Washington, D.C. That's the nation's busiest rail corridor. And some shoppers in Florida recently got a late Halloween scare. A real human skull was on display in a section of a thrift store, and it just happened to be recognized by an anthropologist. An investigation is now underway to figure out where it came from. Let's switch gears to the 2024 election cycle. Florida governor and presidential hopeful Ron DeSantis got a crucial endorsement just moments ago from Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds.
We need someone who won't get distracted, but will stay disciplined, who puts this country first and not himself. That leader is Ron DeSantis.
Reynolds' endorsement could be a major boost for DeSantis, who is currently trailing behind Donald Trump in Iowa by 27 points. This comes as DeSantis and other candidates are gearing up for Wednesday's GOP presidential debate, moderated by NBC. The RNC just announced the list of qualifying and participating candidates, and missing from the podium yet again, frontrunner Donald Trump. Let's bring in NBC's Dasha Burns to help break all of this down. Dasha, we know you got the early exclusive. You broke this news of Governor Reynolds' endorsement with DeSantis. What did you hear from them? You spoke to both of them. How significant and unusual is a Kim Reynolds endorsement here, and does it even matter?
Well, look, Valerie, it is unusual. There hasn't been an endorsement from a governor in Iowa ahead of their First in the Nation caucuses in more than 2 decades. So this is a break with tradition. I asked Governor Reynolds why she decided to jump in and put her thumb on the scale here. This is what she told me.
I just felt like I couldn't sit on the sidelines any longer. We have too much at stake. Our country is in a world of hurt. The world is a powder keg, and I think it's just really important that we put the right person in office. And I've had a unique opportunity as governor to watch this guy and see how he has led in Florida and what he has accomplished with his record.
Now, Governor Reynolds is wildly popular with Republican voters here in her state. So this is a big win for Governor DeSantis. It's a big boost of momentum for him, especially going into this debate on Wednesday night. How much will it matter, though, is the big question. Because we haven't really seen an endorsement of this magnitude in this state in such a long time, it's hard to say exactly what this will mean for voters. Now, the Trump campaign, of course, is saying that this is not really going to matter. Some of their polling from their super PAC shows that it's not going to move the needle very much. But Valerie, the other thing here is it's not just a symbolic endorsement, and it's not just lip service. She told me in the interview that she's planning to campaign with him, put the entire weight of her operation behind him. So we're going to see her actually hitting the trail.
Dasha, given that this is an unusual endorsement, how are voters expected to respond to it?
Well, it depends on who you talk to, right? There are the Trump voters who are very entrenched, and it's not likely to have an impact. For those who are undecided, though, it could potentially move the needle. I talked to a couple of different voters about this. I want you to listen to 2 of the folks we talked to. A gentleman named Roy, who is a supporter of DeSantis and is hoping this will help consolidate the field, and a woman named Christy, who's undecided. Take a listen.
I think there's still a lot of people that are undecided or maybe don't want to vote for Trump. And so I think it gives some more credibility to Ron DeSantis' campaign, some more visibility.
I think we might see some of the other candidates drop out because with Kim Reynolds, who just seems to carry a lot of weight.
The other question this brings up, Valerie, is what this will mean for some of the other influential figures and other governors, like Governor Chris Sununu of New Hampshire, Governor Brian Kemp of Georgia, who people were wondering whether they might endorse Nikki Haley, for example. Well, now that Kim Reynolds has sort of put her cards on the table first, are they going to hold off on endorsing? Are they going to fall in line and unite behind Governor DeSantis? It's going to be really interesting to watch. And when it comes to voters, again, especially in Iowa, folks tend to break pretty late. So as she's campaigning, what that impact and influence will have, we're going to be watching that over the coming weeks and months here.
All right, Dasha Burns in Iowa for us tonight. Dasha, we thank you. And if it's Monday, it's Election Day Eve. Tomorrow might be the single biggest election day before the 2024 cycle kicks off. People will be heading to the polls in a handful of states. In Kentucky and Mississippi, Governors Andy Beshear and Tate Reeves are on the ballot. In Ohio, voters will be deciding on major issues like abortion and marijuana legislation. And over in Virginia, control over both chambers of the legislation is up for grabs. Tomorrow's results will be full of lessons for both parties ahead of 2024. especially as new polling shows President Biden trailing behind his lead opponent, former President Trump, in 5 out of 2024's 6 swing states. NBC's Shaquille Brewster joins me now to break all of this down. Shaq, let's talk about tomorrow's races first. How can the results impact either party across the board?
Hi there, Valerie. Well, you know, tomorrow's races are really going to be a test of the national mood, and specifically whether or not Democrats at a state level can overcome what you're seeing at a national level and a sourness that you're seeing among voters and how they feel about President Biden and also the Democratic Party at large. You look at a state like Kentucky. This is a state that former President Trump won in 2020 by nearly 26 points, but it has a Democratic governor who's seeking re-election. If you look at his approval ratings, he's one of the most popular governors in the country. He helped get the state through pandemic, through flooding, through flooding and other natural disasters, tornadoes. But his opponent has been tying him to President Biden and has been tying himself to former President Trump and trying to take advantage of his popularity here. So this is one of those states where we'll really be watching closely to see if Democrats at a local level can overcome those national headwinds. You also have issues like abortion at play, not just here in Kentucky, but also a key issue in Virginia as that state legislature is up for grab. And that question will be directly to voters in Ohio. So a lot of those national campaign messages you'll really get a test of in the races that we'll watch tomorrow.
And Shaq, there's Trump leading rather heavily over Biden in 5 out of the 6 swing states. What else is Biden lagging behind on?
Yeah, those polls really caused a lot of alarm bells and panicking among Democrats when they came out over the course of the weekend. And it's not just those top line numbers that you mentioned, but when you look at other issues that we've talked about before, a concern over, President Biden's age, for example, you have about 73% of voters saying that they are concerned about his age. And despite the fact that former President Trump is only a few years younger, you have only 39% of voters expressing concern about that. Then it goes down to the issues. You see former President Trump leading on issues like the economy, immigration, the Israel-Hamas war, and also national security, whereas President Biden is only getting the advantage with abortion. And then it gets worse when you ask if whose policies have helped you, with 53% of voters in these swing states saying that President Biden's policies have hurt them, 34% of voters saying that the same of former President Trump. So these are numbers that are definitely concerning for President Biden. But when you listen to the Biden campaign, when you listen to Democratic officials, they say, hey, let's hold off. It's a year away from the election. If you look at former President Obama, a year before his re-election, he also had negative numbers. It remains to be seen what impact this will really have. But that is why so many people are watching tomorrow's elections to see what tea leaves and what takeaways you can get from those big contests in these crucial and important states.
Another area that Trump is also gaining some ground with is black voters in swing states, right?
That's right. And that was another concerning area from that poll where you saw former President Trump, when black voters were interviewed and asked who you support, he got increased support from black voters, and you saw a decrease in support for President Biden. Black voters are a key part of the Democratic base, of not just for President Biden, but for the party at large. So there's a concern there, not just for the success or potential success that President Biden can have, but it's a concern for what it can do down the ballot for the party at large in many of these states. Again, this is why tomorrow's elections, it's a test to see exactly how these voters turn out, what these voters do when you don't have Trump and Biden on the ballot directly, but you have people looking in and seeing the impact and the behavior and habits of these voters when they get to go to the polls. Valerie?
All right, we know you'll be watching those results closely tomorrow. Shaq Brewster, thank you so much.
You got it.
Coming up, a mission deep below the sea to recover $20 billion worth of sunken treasure. We'll explain. But first, you got to see this. This kid called 911 just to spread some love.
You called him to give him a hug.
What is it?
Let me see if it was there.
And I know what you phone on 911.
Yeah, but you know what that's for? Is if you're in trouble and you need help.
He knows that's the phone number. Obviously, this was not an emergency, but a really sweet moment. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Here are some of the stories happening out west that we're following. Jury selection began in the trial of the man accused of attacking former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband. David DePape faces attempted kidnapping charges of a federal official, Pelosi herself, and assault on the immediate family member of a federal official, her husband. Paul Pelosi was knocked unconscious when he was hit in the head with a hammer and spent almost a week in the hospital after that January attack. Opening statements are slated for Thursday. Nearly a dozen cases of tuberculosis have been linked to a California casino. Health officials say 10 confirmed cases are connected to the California Grand Casino between 2018 and 2023, while they are still waiting for confirmation on an 11th person. So far, 300 people have been informed of potential exposure worldwide. Tuberculosis has now topped COVID as the leading infectious disease killer. Teachers in Portland, Oregon began their first full week of their first ever strike. Portland public school leaders and teachers are still far apart as far as negotiations go, leaving some 45,000 students in limbo. The teachers want pay increases and improvements to school infrastructure and more mental health experts to support a number of kids in need. A hit-and-run incident at Stanford University Friday is now being investigated as a hate crime. Marianne Favreau from NBC Bay Area has more.
Stanford student Abdul Wahab Omira says he was walking to class yesterday afternoon when a driver hit him and yelled, "F you and your people," as he sped off. Omira put out a statement shared with NBC Bay Area Saturday. In it, he was critical of Stanford, saying the hours following the incident were agonizingly silent from the institution that I had trusted to be my safeguard. Stanford's belated response came 6 hours later, and the subsequent communication downplayed the severity of the incident, referring to it as a potential hate crime. Some Stanford students say as they speak out about the conflict in the Middle East, they feel unsafe on campus.
And I saw people writing on billboards saying the illusion of Israel is burning.
Other students who have camped out in tents to call for a ceasefire in Gaza say they have received threats. After the hit and run, students on both sides are demanding the university do more to keep all students safe.
I think that the university needs to lead with empathy. I think that there needs to be a firm stance to protect students. And I think that less hesitation would be important as well.
In a message to the campus community after the incident, the university said, quote, Stanford is continuing to work to provide a safe and secure campus environment in the context of heightened tensions related to the events in Israel and Gaza. This includes additional security that has been deployed at key locations on campus. But students we talk with say it's not enough.
The university should work to quiet down the extreme voices and bring in the people on the center. Quiet down everything that has to do with violence.
In Palo Alto, Marianne Favreau, NBC Bay Area News.
Tonight kicks off college basketball season, but one issue that's been brewing for years is paying college athletes. The rules surrounding that are currently in flux, and now we're seeing big programs recruiting stars from competing teams and century-old conferences collapsing. So what has the NCAA done in this time of crisis? Hired a politician to serve as its president. NBC's Noah Pransky spoke to him in this exclusive interview.
You couldn't have been surprised by the passion of your NCAA constituency compared to being a governor, were you?
A little.
1 year ago, then Governor Charlie Baker was still navigating the state of Massachusetts through the uncharted waters of a pandemic. Today, he's at the helm of the NCAA, where the waters, in many ways, are just as choppy. A former high school basketball star, Baker's still got a jump shot sharp enough to dominate a game of horse.
Boom!
Horse, a relevant skill given the Wild West nature of the NCAA today, with some schools, and now some athletes too, finding new ways to rake in millions of dollars.
I mean, it really is, in that respect, very Wild Westish. And part of what we're trying to get Congress to do is to help us create kind of one playing field with the same set of rules across all 50 states.
One of his first actions as NCAA president asked Congress to regulate the 117-year-old institution, with a grim warning if action isn't taken.
Literally, thousands of your interscholastic athletic programs will go away.
Ever since the Supreme Court upended NCAA's amateurism rules in 2021, opening the door for athletes to profit off their name, image, and likeness, NIL for short, college sports have been governed not by one set of rules, but by dozens of them, passed quickly by dozens of state legislatures. Add in the transfer portal, where schools can basically now snag star players away from other schools, and Baker says the only way to protect student athletes and college athletics as we know it is with new national guardrails.
You don't want to limit compensation for athletes?
No, absolutely not. I don't want to limit compensation at all. In fact, I think NIL is terrific. What I worry about is people using the framework without any transparency, accountability, or rulemaking to take advantage of student athletes and their families.
But Baker has pushed back on one issue of compensation, a lawsuit attempting to classify student athletes as employees of a university, meaning wages for all of the hours they put into their sports. But Baker says that could bankrupt a majority of the NCAA's 1,100 athletic departments, which already lose money and can't take on millions in new salaries. While the big football schools like Ohio State or Alabama are working with annual athletic budgets north of $200 million, most NCAA schools have budgets closer to $7 million.
What happens if you don't get that congressional action?
Well, we're going to try and put a lot of those policies in place to the extent we can through rulemaking.
But there's a real challenge there. Rules passed by the NCAA may not stand up to the scrutiny of state courts. The organization has begun writing new rules for schools that will provide student athletes with expanded health care, mental health services, scholarship protections, and continued access to the classroom after their playing days are over. But the one issue that keeps Baker up at night,
I worry about the sports betting thing, because that's where I think we have a challenge that is not fully understood.
NCAA research found 2 out of 3 students on college campuses have placed sports bets, and Baker's concerned about their potential influence on the athletes at the center of the action. He wants to work with the gambling apps to monitor campus betting.
We can and should do and will do a lot of surveillance over unusual movements on betting and that type of thing.
Baker says there's a lot to play catch-up on, but he's got a knack for making the difficult look easy, winning the governor's mansion twice as a Republican in notoriously liberal Massachusetts. Not to mention the occasional long shot from way beyond the arc.
Bang! All right, now go fix NIL.
Yeah.
Our thanks to Noah Pransky for that exclusive report. Now let's dive into a compelling tale off the coast of Colombia. That's where you'll find a 300-year-old shipwreck, which may have treasure on board worth $20 billion. The Colombian government is now pushing to expedite its recovery, but an American company now finds itself locked in a legal battle over the ship's ownership. Tonight, the holy grail of shipwrecks, potentially one step closer to resurfacing for the first time in 300 years. Bloomberg reporting Colombian President Gustavo Petro has ordered the recovery of the $20 billion treasure, telling the country's Minister of Culture to, quote, pick up the pace and pull the wreck off the ocean floor before the end of his term in 2026. But questions tonight about who can claim ownership of the treasure on board the San Jose, a Spanish galleon which sank off the coast of Cartagena in 1708 during a battle with the British Navy. Believed to be on board, priceless artifacts, gold and silver, gems and jewelry collected by South American colonies to be shipped to Spain's king. The wreck's exact location, a closely guarded secret. The Colombian Navy says it found the storied ship in 2015.
Constituye uno de los más grandes hallazgos e identificaciones de patrimonio sumergido, si no el más grande, dicen algunos, en la historia de la humanidad.
But American company Sea Search Armada says it discovered the wreck in the 1980s, making a deal with Colombia to get half of the value in exchange for the coordinates. They're now suing Colombia, seeking half the value of the fortune. Colombia rejecting the company's ownership rights earlier this year.
I get excited about what it means historically.
Professor Charles Beaker, who says the wreck lies within Colombian waters, was an advisor to a Colombian delegation in 2014.
Colombia should split nothing. It's 100% something they have. let's appease everybody by making sure that these objects can be, again, loaned to Spain, long-term loan, Central America, in Colombia for exhibits, and these resources should be protected for public benefit, not for private gain.
Bloomberg reporting President Petro is pushing officials to set up a public-private partnership or do a deal with a private firm to recover the riches.
700 feet of water today is not that difficult. Divers cannot go there, but remote operated vehicles can go there, but it's still costly. To do underwater work is a costly endeavor. Draw the line that you're not using artifacts to pay for it.
Spain also claims it has some ownership over the artifacts on board, as well as indigenous groups from Latin American countries. Up next, some of the biggest stories trending around the world. If you thought the shipwreck was cool, you're not going to believe what divers just found off the coast of Italy. That's next, so stay tuned. Welcome back. Let's take a quick look around the world. Another earthquake hit Nepal today, just as the country continues to recover from a much more powerful quake last week. Over 150 people died last Friday when a 6.4 magnitude earthquake hit the same area. It was the worst quake to hit the region since 2015, when several thousand people were killed. In the Philippines, a radio anchor was killed while broadcasting live on Facebook. Police say the attacker pretended to be a listener to gain access to the home-based radio station. Facebook later removed the live stream, but clips of the attack have circulated online. The Philippines has long been seen as one of the most dangerous places in the world for journalists. Hungary has fired its National Museum director over LGBTQ content as part of a prestigious photo exhibit. He was accused of violating the country's so-called child protection law, which bans showing any LGBTQ content to minors. 5 photos in a museum exhibit displayed a community of LGBTQ plus elders, with some dressed in drag. And a diver off the coast of Italy has discovered tens of thousands of ancient bronze coins. The coins, which date back to the early 4th century, were found in excellent condition, according to Italy's culture ministry, who says that based on the weight of the coins, there could be anywhere from 30,000 to 50,000 of them. Now to the rare access inside Gaza. Raf Sanchez, embedded with an Israeli military unit, was the first NBC News correspondent to enter the area since the war began. Here's his report.
Several miles inside Gaza, Israeli forces are on high alert. At first, it's not clear why. Nothing in this devastated landscape looks like it could challenge their overwhelming firepower. But for Israeli troops, the threat is coming from below. Squads of Hamas fighters bursting out of tunnels to mount ambushes like this.
They're coming out, they're shooting you, going back to the tunnel, and then running to another tunnel.
NBC News was granted rare access inside Gaza by the Israeli army, following combat engineers tasked with blocking the tunnels and stopping the attacks. As a condition of joining them, we agreed to blur some faces and to show Israel's military censors our raw footage, though not our final story. Nearly 1 month after Hamas terrorists stormed out of Gaza through this border fence, we joined a column of Israeli troops heading the other way. Our first stop is one of the only houses in the area still standing. The family kitchen is abandoned, but the backyard holds a secret.
This is the entrance to one of dozens of tunnels they've found in this area. They say it's about 15 yards deep, that Hamas fighters popped out to ambush them from it, and that their mission is to destroy this tunnel and all the others across Gaza.
It's no easy task. Israel says there's a vast network of tunnels concealed beneath civilian areas.
They now hide under schools and under hospitals because they know that we, as the Israeli Defense Forces, we will not attack hospital, or we will not. But this war will be different.
Israel claims it has no choice but to strike in densely populated areas. But the toll on Palestinian civilians has been devastating. Not far away, Major Mayan Mullah leads us through the ruins of a beach resort.
We found out 3 tunnels that connected to each other.
Their solution is simple. Graffiti here reads, "Return the hostages." Every tunnel a possible site of captivity.
Have you seen any sign of the hostages?
No, unfortunately not yet.
A search that continues ever deeper into the strip. Raf Sanchez, NBC News, Northern Gaza.
Okay, and before we go, it's time for the future of everything. We're going to tell you about Grok. No, not the former NFL tight end. It's a new AI chatbot from none other than Elon Musk. Stay tuned.
I'm going to start something which you could call Truth GBT, or a maximum truth-seeking AI that tries to understand the nature of the universe. And I think this might be the best path to safety.
Okay, so back in April, Elon Musk said he was going to launch his own artificial intelligence, and this weekend he did. Yesterday, Elon Musk debuted Grok, the newest AI chatbot to hit the market. His AI company, xAI, launched the tech to a select group of X users to test it out. The company describes Grok as a rebellious streak, and that it should answer the spicy questions that other AI would stay away from, like explaining how to make cocaine. The prototype is still in its beta phase, but users can sign up for a wait list for a chance to use it. So joining us now is Tim Higgins, Wall Street reporter and author of Power Play, Tesla, Elon Musk, and the Bet of the Century. Tim, so Elon Musk wants xAI to challenge companies like OpenAI. So what sets Grok apart from those other chatbots?
Well, maybe it's his kind of a sarcastic sense of humor, that joke about cocaine and some of the other examples that we've seen already. One of the other big differences is that Elon is pulling the data from Twitter, now known as X, and he's promising that it's going to be more real-time data that's feeding that system, whereas one of the criticisms against OpenAI's system is that it's dated, that they essentially had a cutoff time in 2021. And so the data isn't exactly newsworthy when you're asking it questions.
So back in March, Elon Musk signed a letter calling for a pause on AI. Just a few days ago, though, during the UK AI summit, he signed a declaration aiming to combat AI risks. He even said this during the summit. Let's take a listen.
I think AI is one of the biggest threats. I mean, we are, for the first time, we have a situation where there's something that is going to be far smarter than the smartest human.
So, Tim, what do you make of that? Are these actions just for show?
Yeah, the paradoxes of Elon Musk, right? On one hand, this is the end of humanity. On the other hand, he's racing towards it. And, you know, in part, it seems as if he's kind of saying to the world that he's really worried about this technology and he needs to be involved with it to ensure that it's done correctly. That's essentially what he's been arguing. And, you know, we'll see here. You know, he talks about how in order to avoid a Terminator-like future, you've got to kind of see, you know, how you would do that, essentially. And that's kind of the road he's going down.
You touched on this earlier. Grok has access to data from X, formerly Twitter, which xAI says will give it a leg up. Tell us more about that. How is that going to work?
Well, one of the examples that Elon provided from the system was kind of, he had just been on the very popular podcast, Joe Rogan, and he asks, you know, what was Joe wearing during that podcast? And so his system could kind of describe it, whereas OpenAI's system, it really didn't have the ability to do that. And that's kind of what I was mentioning earlier, is that it basically was taking data. OpenAI was taking data in the past and building a system going in, and that's what it's using right now. Now, just today, the company OpenAI was announcing that they're going to be bringing that data forward into this year, and they're really trying to make sure that the data is fresh, because this has been a criticism of it. And that it kind of shows kind of Elon's thinking about one of the advantages they have going forward is this access to X data that he has tried to cut off or make more valuable to other companies that had been scraping it. He wants to charge them for that. And you can kind of see him seeing that as an advantage.
Mm-hmm. All right, Tim Higgins, thank you so much. We appreciate your time. That does it for us tonight. I'm Valerie Castro. We'll see you tomorrow. But until then, stay tuned now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.